Probability Part 2. In this video we're going to be focusing on describing probability using numbers. Okay, so let's quickly go over the language of probability. If something is certain, it would have the probability of 1. If it's got an even chance, it would have a probability of a half. Not likely, could have a probability of 1/6. And impossible would be a 0, and that would be a rolling an 8, let's say, on a dice. How to express probability? Well, probabilities are most commonly shown as fractions, but they can also be shown as decimals or percentages. And the rest of this lesson is going to be focusing on that. So the probability of getting tails when you toss a coin is a 1 in 2 chance. That means that on the top, you can see of the fraction, we've put a number 1, and for the denominator, we've put a 2, because 1 out of 2 is the chance. It can be written as 0.5 as a decimal or as 50%. A probability of 3/4 can be also written as 0.75 or as 75%. We will go over how we're going to do this in a minute, so don't panic if you don't know how to get there. The probability of getting a 3 when you roll a dice is a 1 in 6 chance. So can you see we've put the 1 on top and the 6 at the bottom, because 1 out of 6 is the chance of you getting a 3 when you roll a dice, because that's 1 3 and out of 6 numbers. Now you're going to recognize these questions because these are questions that you did yesterday, and some of you struggled, so we're going to go over it. But even if you did not struggle, do the questions on the next slide anyway. So representing probability as a fraction. What is the missing probability from the line? Give your answer as a fraction in its simplest form. Well, first of all, we need to count how many spaces are there altogether. Altogether, I can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 10 spaces, and going from 0 to my question mark, there are three spaces. That means 3 out of 10 is missing. So that is my answer. In the second question, what is the missing probability from the line? I give your answer as a fraction in its simple form. We can see there's only 3 places altogether. We don't have to count them too carefully. And there's 2 until we reach the question mark. That means 2 will go on top of the fraction and 3 at the bottom, so it's 2/3. Third question, what is the missing probability from the line? Give your answer in fraction in its simplest form. Again, if we count the spaces between a 0 and 1, there will be 5. And if I count the spaces from 0 to my question mark, there's 4. So 4 will go on top of the fraction and 5 at the bottom. So that's 4 out of 5. Now pause the video and try these. When you've done, press play and I will go through the answers with you. Okay, so having a look at the first one, if you count the spaces, there's 10 spaces and 5 spaces to get to the question mark, so that's 5 out of 10. Simplifying that, we can simplify that to a half, because 5 out of 10 is half. On the question following that, we can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces and only 1 space to get to the question mark, so that's 1/8 as a fraction, and that's already in its simplest form. And the last one, we need 2 spaces to get to the question mark, and altogether there's 5, so that's 2 out of 5 as a fraction. Representing probability as a decimal. Okay, this I think is something that you were struggling quite a bit on yesterday, so let's go through this. If I count how many hops it takes for me to get from the 0 to the question mark, I'm going to find out that there's 7 and altogether there's 8. This actually means 7 divided by 8. If you put that in your calculator and you divide 7 by 8, you're going to get 0.875, and that is your answer. That is the probability represented as a decimal. Next one, here we can see it's 3 out of 4, and 3 out of 4 means 3 divided by 4, and if you pop that into your calculator you will get 0.75. So your answer as a decimal is 0.75. Looking at this one, if you count your spaces, you'll find out that there is 10 and altogether, but 8 spaces to get from 0 to the question mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 8 out of 10. That means 8 divided by 10, which is 0.8. So my answer is 0.8. Now pause the video and try these. When you're done, press play and I will go through the answers with you. Okay, so I'm not going to go through them too carefully, but here are your answers. If you want to read the comments, give it a quick pause and check that you've got them all correct. So representing probability as a percentage. So we would do it exactly the same way we've been doing so far. Count how many spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces out of 8. First I would write it as a fraction, 7 out of 8. This means 7 divided by 8, so pop it into your calculator and you will get 0.875. To get a percentage, we multiply 0.875 by 100. That is 2 decimal hops to the right, so your new decimal point will be after the 7. So that is 87.5%. Next question, as a percentage, we've got 3 hops, 3 out of 4. That means 3 divided by 4. Putting that in your calculator, you will have 0.75. This is one that it would be really good for you to memorize. Multiply by 100 and you will get 75%. So my answer is 75%. Next one, again, count the spaces. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 8 out of 10. So my fraction is going to be 8 out of 10. That means 8 divided by 10, which is equal to 0.8 as a decimal. Multiply that by 100 and I get 80%. Okay, so these are for you to try. Represent these probabilities on the number line as percentages. So pause the video and try them. When you're done, press play and I will display the answers for you. Okay, and here are the answers. Mark them. Use PAC marking. If you've made a mistake, try and figure out where it is. If you can't figure out your mistakes, email me and I will help you. Okay, so this is the last task for you to do on this video. What I'd like you to do is make a copy of this probability scale in your books and label it, because this contains all the words that you need to know and all the fractions, decimals and percentages that are commonly used with probability. When you've done that, if you struggled with a home learning task yesterday on Hegarty Maths, please log on again and see if you can improve your scores. If you did okay, if you got an amber score or a green score, and I know there are some of you who did, then log on to SumDog and there is an extension set on there. Thanks for listening.